Welcome, everybody. Monday, February 13th. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Here to talk about our daily update about Ukraine. Let me get TikTok roving here on my iPad. And then we wait a minute. As you guys know, any of the regulars know, we wait until folks arrive, maybe 2 minutes or so, for get a good critical mass on TikTok and YouTube and elsewhere. In the meantime, introduce yourselves. Say where you are from, if you would. Hello, TikTokers. There we go. Hey, Big Philly. You might be the first TikToker. Hard to say. So just introduce yourselves, if you would. Say where you're from. And we're going to wait a minute for folks to filter in. I will have a sip of tea. Well, is the sound being evil? All right. There we go. Sound was being evil on TikTok. All right. I unplugged the good mic. So you should be fine now. And I assume you guys can hear me fine, right? You YouTubers and everybody else? Hoping. Yeah, the sound gets funky on TikTok sometimes. Oh, I was just saying typically we take a couple minutes just to let me get rolling here, or to wait for folks to arrive. So that's what we're doing right now, another minute or two. Hola, YouTubers, you can hear me, right? I'm hoping. Waiting for the YouTubers to get back to us. I know TikTokers can hear fine, but let's hope. Yes, YouTubers? Any YouTubers can hear me? None of them are. Okay, thank you. Kay's responding. Thank you, Kay. I was getting worried there. All right, guys. Maybe another 30 seconds and then we'll get rolling. I usually like to wait a second to let folks arrive from all over Puerto Rico. We never see people from Puerto Rico here. Not never, but I don't recall Puerto Rico very much. So good to see you, Jen. All right, guys, let me get rolling. So welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is my daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Go about half an hour or so. Might be long today. We'll see. I've got a lot of news. And then the second half of the show, I take your guys' questions and we really, delve into all this stuff. The way it works is on TikTok, I've got TikTok over here on my iPad to my right. On TikTok, if you guys can submit questions or comments even via the Q&A link that's in my profile, I would appreciate that. And for the rest of you, YouTube, everywhere else, you can use the comment box at the bottom. Thank you, Grayson, for that. I definitely appreciate the gifts on TikTok and YouTube, the super chats and all the TikTok gifts. I am doing this for free. I've been doing it full time since the war broke out. So I quite literally rely on your guys' patronage. Nobody else is paying me, so thank you so much if you can help out. Thank you, Bonnie, for that. Let's get rolling. So I have no choice. I've got to start talking today about UFOs, even though it has nothing to do with Ukraine. I apologize. Thank you, Allie, for the gift. But the Biden administration has left us in no position not to talk about UFOs for a quick minute. So the Pentagon had another press conference today to basically not talk about all the balloons it's been shooting down. I've been getting a little annoyed about this, actually. We have, over the weekend, since I last saw you guys on Friday, over the weekend now, we've shot down another 3 balloons. Well, I should say one on Friday, one on balloons, unidentified objects, one on Friday, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, also shot down by the U.S. One of them, however, was over Canada, but because of this joint agreement with NORAD, we shot it down. The Biden administration has been very tight-lipped about all of this. It's had a lot of people wondering whether we're being invaded by aliens. Thank you, Sarah and Meg, both. Oh, thank you very much. Both of you. That was very generous of you. Right? Thank you. The White House had to come out again today and say it's not aliens. And, the thing is, look, here's the thing. I happen to believe there is life out there somewhere. It is a big universe. It is a ridiculously big universe. I mean, when I was growing up, the numbers we were taught, oh, thank you, Sarah. The numbers we were taught, I think it's gotten even bigger now, were each galaxy, so like the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy of stars, right? Our galaxy has like 100 billion suns in it, okay? The number of galaxies out there was also 100 billion. So 100 billion galaxies out there, each of them the size of our galaxy with 100 billion suns. I mean, and it's even bigger than that. There could easily be life somewhere. I don't want to get it. Actually, I could do a whole talk on this someday. Stephen Hawking and Carl Sagan both had interesting theories about life. Whether one of them, I forget who, I think it was Hawking maybe, that was worried whether alien life might come and wipe us out. One thing that I think Hawking may have said, it was one of the two, because both of them were very big on this, was that the chances of meeting extraterrestrial life are actually rather thin, because basically we've been around the world. The universe has been around for like 13 billion years with a B. Okay. The humanity in its modern sense has been, 10,000 years. And even that, we weren't that modern 10,000 years ago, right? You really have to go back to like the ancient Egyptians, or whoever around the world, but we're talking the last 6,000 years where things started to get interesting. Okay. You would have to find another race that is at our level of development for them to contact us in the same period. Anyway, I don't want to make it the whole thing about aliens, but it's not always really very probable that we would meet another race at the same level of development as us. But what that means is, and Stephen Hawking, I think, had said this, I think it was Hawking, they might kill us. Because again, it's very unlikely. Meeting another race will take a lot of chance to start with, let alone one that's at our same level. And then they got to be friendly. Well, one of the ways to make sure they're not friendly is to keep shooting them down out of the sky when we don't know what they are. Okay, back to the story at hand. So we shut down 3 more things this weekend, unidentified. Today, CNN got their hands on a document, a classified memo, I guess, that was given to Congress talking about this. And apparently the Canadian one, the one shot down over Canadian airspace on Saturday, was small. It was a small metallic balloon with a tethered payload below it. Okay, that at least helps. Thank you, Bonnie. What's been ticking me off with all of this, and I think it's wrong for people to get upset at people who are saying it's aliens, right? The administration is acting like it's aliens. I don't think it's aliens. I wish it were aliens in principle. Well, now that we're shooting them down, I'm glad it's not aliens. But they're certainly acting like it's aliens, and that's the problem. Tell us what the hell's going on. The first time with the balloon, they found out, right? And we were getting all sorts of updates about the balloon, about the size of it. It was 3. Remember, it was three school bus sizes and all of this. Then they shut up. Then they shot down the first. Gave us no more information. They shot down the second, gave us of the other ones. I should say they shot down the second, gave us no information. The third gave us no information. The fourth gave us no information. Why the hell aren't they giving? I mean, if the description of the thing is it was a balloon with a string and a payload, why the hell can't you tell people that? Why does it have to go into some classified briefing to Congress 3 days after you shot it down? They're acting like it's aliens, or they're acting like it's something highly classified. They're acting like it's something highly embarrassing, right? Whether it's embarrassing to us or embarrassing to our allies, but they're acting like there's a big secret to hide here. And of course, people are gravitating, thank you, Elle, people are gravitating to aliens because we keep shooting down unidentified objects. Anyway, but seriously, I'm serious about this. I don't think it's aliens, but I'm serious that I think the Biden administration has been acting like they've got something to hide, and therefore people's minds are going to go to all sorts of things. Thank you, McFadge, for the swan there. So that's it. I'll stop with this, and then we'll move on with Ukraine. As I said before, I mean, I've worked 30 plus years in Washington politics. Okay, I've gotten very good at reading the tea leaves, like trying to discern what's going on behind the scenes. This is not normal behavior when nothing's going on. This is the kind of behavior when something's going on. There's something going on they don't really want to tell us about, and that's why people are starting to postulate. But what it means is, I'm guessing it's more than just some silly balloon. They know more about these balloons, and there's a reason they're not telling us. So there you go. I mean, for example, maybe we're shooting down English balloons. Israeli spy balloons. I don't know, but there's some reason they're not telling us. All right, back to the news here. So NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg today, who's very outspoken in defense of Ukraine, but when I say that, I mean a lot of Westerners obviously are NATO's very supportive of Ukraine, but Stoltenberg, I think he actually tends to speak almost out of turn sometimes. Like he almost seems like he's pushing NATO a little to do more. Thank you, Spirits here, which is interesting to me. He said today, he was quoted by the Financial Times in London as saying, It is clear that we are in the race of logistics. Key capabilities like ammunition must reach Ukraine before Russia can seize the initiative on the battlefield. That was something I've been hearing a lot about. There was a report, it might have been on CNN today about this too, but we're seeing a lot of talk about ammunitions and about no one wants to say directly whether the Ukrainians are going to run out, but that the Ukrainians are in short supply. NATO is trying to figure out how to ramp up. Even ramping up could take a year or two to get them the ammunition. I mean, it's really crazy stuff they're talking about. It just worried me a little to see him mention that. Secondly, there was an interview in Le Figaro with Polish President Duda by Laure Mondeville, this wonderful French journalist I got to befriend when she was living here in Washington, D.C. And she interviewed President Duda, who's also super defender of Ukraine. Asks him, can the Russians still win the war? Now, this was translated from Polish into English by Google, so keep that in mind. Can the Russians still win the war? He says, yes, they can. If Ukraine does not receive help very soon, very urgently, they don't have modern military infrastructure, but they do have people. If we don't send military equipment to Ukraine in the coming weeks, Putin may win. He may win, and we don't know where he'll stop. I just thought that was interesting, coming at the same time as we're hearing a similar thing from Stoltenberg about Ukraine needs these weapons very soon. I just didn't like it. I didn't like hearing this stuff. It worries me a little. Now, who knows? Is it possible that NATO is trying to give messages to make the Russians think we're worried? Maybe, right? It just, anyway, worried me a little bit. Do make sure to follow me and subscribe on TikTok and on YouTube. I always forget to ask you guys to do that, but please do click and follow. I do put up news updates throughout the day, certainly on TikTok. Bakhmut. So it looks like the Ukrainians may be getting ready to withdraw from Bakhmut. We're not sure. But I mean, there's indications. Bakhmut is over here where my finger is, okay, eastern Ukraine. It is the site of the heaviest fighting right now. Thank you, Nancy, for the galaxy, since we're talking about UFOs today, and Big 73 for the hearts. Bakhmut is over here. It's the biggest fighting that's been going on all over here in Ukraine right now. And Bakhmut is a town the Russians have been trying to get for a long time now. We've been talking about how it's not entirely clear why the Russians are trying to get it. It's, it matters as much as anything else matters, but it's not exactly, stellarly important for the Russians. Regardless, the Russians have been making some advances. They, about a week or so ago, had gotten one of the suburbs called Soledar that they took over. They've been, again, making some advance every day. Well, the Ukrainians today are telling aid groups, meaning, groups that help civilians with food and medicine and all of this, are telling aid groups and civilians that they cannot enter Bakhmut starting on today. They're stopping them from entering the town. And the thought is that it's possible the Ukrainians may be getting ready to abandon the town. Now, abandoning it is not necessarily a disaster. What I mean by that is, because I'll be honest with you guys, hang on a second, sip of tea. The thought has been that the Ukrainians were going to drag this out as long as they could to try to hurt as many of the Russian troops as they could in Bakhmut. And then if they had to, although the thinking was the Ukrainians may not have to abandon it at all, but if they do have to, they'd wait until the last minute and then leave after they've done as much damage as they can to the Russians. Thank you, Benji. So let's see. That could be what's happening. We'll see. Another way that you guys can help me, just to do a quick pitch, I have a Discord set up, discord.aravosis.com. It's basically an online chat community, kind of hard to explain, but you can check it out. Thank you, Diana, for the gift, for the fireworks there. And one of the cool things we do on the Discord is I hold auctions in order to benefit my work, because I do this for free and I'm doing it full time. And basically I survive paying the bills with your guys' support. So thank you for that. And half the money from the auctions goes to support me. Half the money from the auctions goes to support humanitarian and also some of the military folks in Ukraine. One thing that we're auctioning off right now, I'll do a quick, I won't give you all the explanation, but we've got these boxes we bought from Ukrainian charities that have pieces of a Ukrainian fighter jet. A Ukrainian, oh my God, a Russian fighter jet, not a Ukrainian, a Russian fighter jet that was shot down, titanium. It's really cool too, because it's titanium. And I mean, this thing is so freaking hard and it doesn't weigh anything. Shot down over Ukraine by the Ukrainians, a Russian fighter jet, Su-30SM. I did a little research. We know the name of the pilot, what happened to him. It's really cool. But we're auctioning these things off over on the Discord. You can go check it out. And I'm trying to think so far. I'd have to do the latest numbers, but I think we've raised maybe 8,000 just on the auctions for Ukraine. And overall for Ukraine, we've raised over $80,000 additional beyond that over the last year for Ukraine as well. So trying to do what we can to help. Appreciate your guys' help. Russia may have lost an entire elite brigade near Volodar last week. So Volodar is another town that Russia in the east that Russia's been going after, okay? We know that Russia's been going after Bakhmut, okay? Remember, Bakhmut is all the way over here. Volodar, from what I remember when I checked my map on Thursday, Volodar, I believe, is right here. So Bakhmut is here right east of Kramatorsk, right southwest of Severodonetsk. Volodar is here. It's east, I'd say it's west-southwest of Donetsk. So go a little bit over to the left and then a little bit down is Volodar. Now, these areas they're both fighting for because this is also the front line that the Russians are on, okay? The Russians more or less control the line here going east and south. So the line here like this, more or less, and then it cuts over here to the river, bottom side of the river, and here. So the Russians control all of this more or less, okay? They're trying to break through here, Volodar. They're trying to break through here, Bakhmut. Well, I told you guys last week in Volodar that there were a lot of reports and seemingly pretty credible reports that the Russians got their butts kicked in Volodar. Things were so bad that the new recruits, Russian recruits, ran. I mean, they fled. First of all, the Russians were doing what they always do, just throwing people in one on top of the other just to get killed. Secondly, they were new recruits. They'd had enough and they ran. They abandoned their vehicles. There were as many as 30 or more Russian armored vehicles, military vehicles that were abandoned by the Russians. And they were intact. I mean, almost perfectly intact. So the Ukrainians got like 30 additional armored vehicles of various kinds, which is great. What Politico, a very good American political publication, is reporting today is the Russians may have lost an entire elite brigade near Volodar, 5,000 soldiers in all, whose members had been killed, wounded, or taken prisoner by the Ukrainians. The Russian military bloggers are pissed. The military bloggers are an important sort of news political faction in Russia. They tend to be former military. They tend to be nationalist. And when we say nationalist in the context over there, it usually means right-wing and kind of far-right nationalist. So it's basically the people who think the Russians aren't killing enough Ukrainians, right? You should be even tougher with the Ukrainian civilians. It's that kind of nationalism. It's not just rah-rah Russia. So these are Putin's biggest supporters for the war, but they're also some of the people most disappointed in Putin and the war because they really, right, they want Putin to go crazy. Well, Igor Girkin is one of the more outspoken ones. Thank you for the gift there, Webadeb. Igor Girkin is one of the more outspoken ones. Oops. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Sorry, I had to get rid of somebody on Facebook. Goodbye, Facebook person. Bye-bye, Facebook person. Okay, sorry. I love that. Lies! Lies! They always come, lies, they're lies, I tell you. I have to do it like in my I don't know if that's from Frankenstein or what that was. Remember, lies, I tell you, lies. No, it is Frankenstein, but it's when the doctor Frankenstein is saying, it's alive, I tell you, it's alive. I always think of that when I see the Russian trolls say lies, lies. Thank you, Paula, for the hat there. The Girkin, who's the big military blogger, very critical of the war effort, obviously, because he thinks it should be going better, is livid. And I want to read you a couple quotes from him that Politico pulled out. Ukrainian artillery, mind you, sorry, last little point on these military bloggers. They've got a lot of followers. Some of these guys have got hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million plus people following them on Russian social media. So they've got some good impact. Okay, so they're not nobody, and they're a force for Putin to deal with. So this is from Girkin, one of the top Russian military bloggers. Ukrainian artillery shoots exceptionally accurately. Oh, thank you, inspired woman. More than 30 units of armored vehicles were lost. Dozens of tank men were killed, talking about Russian losses. Even more Marines, special forces, and motorized riflemen died, Girkin said. All these losses turned out to be one-sided. The Ukrainians shot the attackers like in a shooting gallery. Gherkin pessimistically described the defeat near Volodar as the end of the offensive of the Russian army on the entire Donetsk front. Now, this is what's interesting. This is what's interesting. The entire Donetsk front. So this is Donetsk. Donetsk is the region here. You got two regions in the east, Luhansk and Donetsk. Together, they make up the Donbass, which is a very coveted region by Putin. He already controls almost 100% of Luhansk, and he controls about 50% of Donetsk. He really, 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 really wants to get the rest of Donetsk. And the thinking is whatever this big offensive is that's coming up, whether it has already started, like Stoltenberg thinks, or whether it's coming up in the next couple of weeks, that at least one big part of this Russian offensive, this big Russian counterattack, is going to be to finally get the last half of Donetsk, okay? So for Gherkin to say that this routing of the Russians in Volodar, where they lost as many as 5,000 troops killed and injured and taken prisoner, that the defeat near Volodar at the end of is the end of the offensive of the Russian army on the entire Donetsk front. I mean, I think that's probably over I don't even know what to call over pessimistic for the Russians, but still, it's great news that some of the Russian thought leaders, so to speak, are telling everybody else out there, we're screwed. We've already lost the war in the East, right? We've already lost this offensive, because that's not the kind of stuff that you want your troops to be hearing. You don't want them to hear that, oh, Gherkin, the guy who's always out there, he says we screwed up, right? Anyway, Elon Musk. So Elon still behaving badly. We had talked last week in depth because Elon Musk is now one of those topics like the United Nations, where I worked for a year. Worst job experience of my life. Horrific organization. Elon is one of those. Thank you, Jazz Diamond. Elon is one of those topics like the United Nations that I have to be careful, because when I start talking about them, I get a little upset. So having a little more tea, and then we're going to talk about Elon. So Elon annoyed everybody last week by out of the blue saying he was no longer going to let the Ukrainian military use Starlink internet for drones, at least drones. Starlink internet is one of Elon's products. It is part of the SpaceX venture. SpaceX, Elon's rockets that go up in the air and can land, and they're very cool. And the NASA and US is using them significantly. SpaceX is also a defense contractor. It is a US defense contractor. So, they're like this with the military. They are sucking at the federal Pentagon teat, as we say. Thank you, Douche, for the hat there. That was Thunderstone. Excuse me, Thunderstone for the hat. So they're sucking at the federal teat, as it were, and a thunderstorm. Excuse me. So Elon announced last week, I just found out that my Starlink internet, he's sounding like an old, female movie star from the 40s. I just found out my Starlink internet was being used by the military to do war, and I'm very upset, and I'm turning it off. And everyone's like, dude, it's being used to communicate with drones. You didn't know the Ukrainians were, and these are mostly drones that they're, doing reconnaissance and stuff. And like, you knew from the beginning the Ukrainians were using Starlink to communicate with their drones. What are you talking about? Thank you, Thunderstorm, for that. I'm shutting it off. This is not what we intended. And pretty much what a lot of folks, I have an update on this. What a lot of folks, myself particularly, think is that Elon is being threatened, or somebody raised today the possibility he's being bought off. But we know several months ago, the first time Elon went soft on Ukraine, remember Elon started the war, I'm going to help Ukraine for free and I don't care. And then several months ago, all of a sudden, we found out Elon got very publicly upset. Thank you, Killers, for the hat there. Elon got very publicly upset and started talking about, why am I having to pay for Starlink? It's so expensive. And getting very upset and pissy about it. And a lot of us raised our hand and went, because you prominently offered it as a gift to Ukraine, and because you wanted all the public credit for how much you were helping them. That's why you're getting Starlink for free. You're not. It's like me giving you a Christmas gift, and then 3 months later going, do you know how much I had to spend for Christmas? It's unfair. And you're like, well, but you bought those gifts. Sorry, Sash. I scared my dog who was under the table when I slammed. I told you, talking about Elon and the UN are both topics that get me a little excited. So fast forward to today. Elon Musk doesn't pay for much of the Starlink anymore. Thank you, Loyalty, for the mariachi hat. He did claim, after a lot of public pressure a few months ago, when he said he was going to turn it off and he wasn't going to pay for Starlink anymore and he was going to turn it off, everybody got pissed at him. He then had a temper tantrum online like he does on Twitter and said, fine. I think it might have been November, October. Fine, I'm going to pay for it anyway, even though it's totally unfair. And we were like, whatever. Since that time, the US and Europe have paid for most of the Starlink, that the satellite internet that Ukraine's using. France has paid for a lot of it. A lot of it France has paid for. So these are government contracts. Elon comes out last week and then has his temper tantrum about how, it's not right. I will read you his quote in a second from Elon. His company came out and said, we're not going to help Ukraine anymore, at least as far as drones. Well, there's new news today that it's even gone beyond drones. What a surprise. Elon Musk lies and lied, and they actually cut off more of Ukraine's access to the Starlink, and decided he was going to have a public pissing match with Scott Kelly, former American astronaut. Now, Scott Kelly's, a real astronaut. He's not like one of these guys that paid $1 million and got to fly up into space for 3 minutes. He's a real astronaut, a NASA astronaut. Kelly goes on Twitter, okay, and listen to this, and says, this is February 11th, so this would be 2 days ago. Elon Musk, Ukraine desperately needs your continued support. Please restore the full functionality of your Starlink satellites. Defense from a genocidal invasion is not an offensive capability. It is survival. Innocent lives will be lost. You can help. Thank you. Elon responds, you're smart enough not to swallow media and other propaganda BS. Right? Yeah, we're going to talk about this in a second. Starlink is the communication backbone of Ukraine, especially at the front lines, where almost all other internet connectivity has been destroyed. We know that, Elon, that's why they need it. But we will not enable escalation of conflict that may lead to World War III. Literally, everyone's going, wait, World War III? Dude, we know Elon's very impressed with himself, but dude, it's literally this is like saying, we pay $800 billion a year for the Pentagon for fighter jets and stealth bombers. But boy, our real secret weapon is Warner Cable and Comcast Cable in New York. Dude thinks he's like, flying an ICBM or something. It's your internet connection. So Elon's convinced that he personally is going to start World War III if he lets Ukraine use his internet connection. One point I left out earlier. Several months ago, when Elon first went weird about Ukraine, when he suddenly turned on Ukraine, when he didn't want to pay anymore for Starlink that he had offered for free, when he suddenly came out with all of these pro-Putin peace plans, right? Elon was literally putting out pro-Putin propaganda, pro-Putin peace plans, and all of us were going, what is going on with this guy? Why does he sound like he's Putin's mouthpiece, right? Well, Ian Bremmer comes out. Ian Bremmer is a very well-known foreign policy hand in Washington, D.C., older guy, probably 50s or 60, very well known, very respected here in town. And Bremmer comes out and says, well, I talked to Musk and he told me he had a secret private phone call with Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin basically threatened his satellites. Putin kind of did a, nice satellites you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to them. That's not what he said, but basically said he threatened Musk's satellites. Right after that is when Musk suddenly became anti-Ukraine. Now, it is entirely possible that it's something else. It's entirely possible that Putin weighed in again and threatened Musk's satellites. It's entirely possible that Putin weighed in and actually offered Musk something. Maybe he said, hey, I've got lots of minerals you need for your electric cars. I don't know, but I think it's really suspicious that out of the blue, Musk did this. So anyway, Musk responds to the U.S. astronaut Mark Kelly and says, you're smart enough not to swallow media and other propaganda BS about the war, right? Because Musk is now part of this crazy, thank you, Annie, for the hot dogs. Musk is now, whether he believes it or whether it's opportunity, I haven't figured out. But Musk has decided that, the world's going to end. And unless he saddles up to the craziest of the crazies out there, we're talking, thank you, Jean-Marc, for the flags there, or for the fireworks there. Basically, he settled up to the crazy MAGA right, but the crazy MAGA right. Not everybody who voted for Trump is crazy. Not everybody on the right is crazy. He literally is choosing the crazy people, those of us who have to follow him every day on Twitter, it's bizarre. A lot of these guys previously were called alt-right. That was the term used for a lot of them before. It's this really scary, the kind of people who basically would have been in favor of the insurrection. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy right is who he settled up to. So anyway, Scott Kelly, the astronaut, responds. Elon, credible this is today, a couple hours ago. Credible first-person reports from the front lines in Ukraine indicate Starlink is being restricted even for military communications. Precision strike in defense of sovereignty is not escalatory. Putin will not stop until he is defeated on the battlefield. Starlink is essential. Thank you. So in other words, what we found out today from this former U.S. astronaut, Scott Kelly, is that Elon Musk last week, when he said he was going to stop Starlink only for the drones, is now screwing with Ukraine's Starlink that it's using for military communications. This is for military communications the same week that it is announced that it looks like Russia has begun its counteroffensive. Again, I can put two and two together. You can put two and two together. What a coincidence that as Russia appears to be starting its offensive, Musk suddenly decides that he's going to stop helping Ukraine in a very large and important way in something, and it's a technology that Musk himself admits just 2 days ago. Starlink is the communications backbone of Ukraine, especially at the front lines. This is Elon, where almost all other internet connectivity has been destroyed. Elon admitted 2 days ago that his Starlink is make or break for Ukraine, and now it looks like Elon's turning off a lot of it. I'm telling you guys, this is the danger of monopolies. This is just incredibly dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. It's like I've said before, I'll stop talking about Elon now, but I did not have much of an opinion on the guy before. I was impressed. I had not done a lot of research, so I had not seen people who say that Musk pretty much, I don't want to say stole, because he didn't literally steal, but Musk is sort of famous for swooping in and buying things and buying other people's ideas. Nonetheless, I drove a Tesla several years ago, and I always tell people it was like driving an iPhone. It was the most amazing car I'd ever driven in my life. Just amazing. But I'd not driven any other electric cars. Fair enough. But the Tesla was amazing. SpaceX, I've watched their launches. I love all the astronaut stuff, watching the, go up, come down. Amazing. Watching Elon since like October, November, like a hawk, which I must do sadly for my politics, for the political work I do. He's a mess. The guy's a mess, and he's a dangerous mess. He's the last person the U.S. space program, the U.S. military should be looking to support their work, because what's going to stop him in the future from saying, well, U.S., you're at war. I don't want World War III. The Pentagon, imagine you, again, thank you, Zoe, for that. Again, I'll stop with this. He's a freaking defense contractor, but he's afraid of World War III and doesn't want to be supporting the military. He's a defense contractor. He's a liar, basically. The guy's a liar. No, he's a mess. But again, final point, and I say this just because something just to let you guys think about as we go forward, because I'm still trying to figure out what's motivating him. I'm trying to figure out too, like whether he is stupid, whether he is gullible, whether he is crazy. I mean, whether he's literally mentally ill, whether he's pretending to be, whether he is some far-right racist, anti-Semitic nut, whether he's pretending to be, and I mean that quite seriously. I wonder whether he's just not trying to suck up to the far right, because that's sort of his idea of what he was going to do with Twitter. He wanted to create some far right Trump MAGA base internet thing. And by the way, he let Trump back on right away. And what did Trump do? Trump didn't come back, because I think Trump figured it out. Trump figured out Elon wanted him to come back and bring all of Trump's people with him for free. And Trump isn't doing it. So any case, guy drives me absolutely bonkers. All right, let me move on. One of the other ways you guys can help, I told you there's a lot of news today. One of the other ways you guys can help me out, I have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/Aravosis. And I will pull your question up next, CK. Patreon.com/Aravosis. It's a great way to basically, give $5 a month or something just to support my work. And that way I know how much is coming in each month. If you've been watching for a while, a couple months or so maybe, and you like what I'm doing, please help out if you can. Or again, the gifts on TikTok, the gifts on YouTube, or frankly, gifts on PayPal help too. I mean, I will. I don't want to go into details, but a lot of these services take a lot of money. Venmo and Cash App don't take nearly as much. PayPal doesn't either. So if you really want to help me, that's a way to help too. You can find all those links in my profile on TikTok. All the links are in aravosis.com for you guys. Okay, CK has a question or comment. With Elon's stance, is it possible Ukraine... Oops, hang on. Trying to understand what you wrote here. Is it possible Ukraine have been using it as a danger for operational security? No, you can't stop talking about Elon. With Elon's stance, is it possible Ukraine... I don't understand your question. You've got a typo there that confused me. You've got Eben, but I can't figure out what you meant to say. Using it as a danger for operational security. I don't understand your question. Do you want to try writing? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to charge you. Try writing your question again. Try writing your question again. And mods, make sure I see it. Could you do that? Let me thank you, Arabella, for the train. Lovely gift, a generous gift too. Hazel, you too. The Moldovan head of state came out today, very upset, saying that the Russians are planning a coup d'etat, which basically means to overthrow the government there. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry. CK was getting back to me. Delete the Eben. With Elon's stance on Starlink, et cetera, is it possible Ukraine using it as a danger for operational security? I have no idea what you mean. You know what? Do me a favor. I'm an editor as well. I've edited a lot of things over the years. I would say start that sentence from scratch and write it differently, and then I'll answer because I don't understand what you're asking. It is a word jumble. It still doesn't help changing that one word. It makes no sense. Possible Ukraine even using it as danger for operational security. I have no idea what that sentence means. I know what operational security is, but rewrite it using totally different words. Yeah, I don't understand. I'm sorry, but you guys keep saying the same thing. Why would use of Starlink be an operational security risk? Oh, I see. Okay. I see. Okay. I think what CK is saying is because of how weird Elon Musk is being with Starlink, is Ukraine now possibly even in danger using Starlink at all because Elon has access to it? In other words, could he give Russia access to what Ukraine's even discussing? Could he keep logs of the things Ukraine is doing? Could he give Russia a backdoor to go in and screw up? That's okay. That's a really interesting question. Thank you. Now I understand. I wasn't sure why you meant a danger for operational security. That's interesting. It's funny. I've got to say, when Musk bought Twitter, I went through all of my old Twitter has these things called direct messages, DMs. And basically, it's a way you can write private communications to somebody. It's almost like text messages or Facebook messaging. Thank you, Uncle Crazy, for the galaxy there. Or Facebook messaging. And just like on Facebook, Twitter makes it next to impossible to delete your old messages. Facebook, good luck deleting your old messages on Facebook. I mean, literally. Cynthia, thank you for that. That was very generous of you. Thank you so much for that. But all of these services make it very hard, and be careful with all of them because on Facebook, I went and looked once. I've got a history going back like 14 years of all of these private communications. I was like, what the hell is that? And again, deleting them, good luck. Twitter works the same way. There are some services you can use. I used them. I finally cleaned up my DMs because I didn't want Elon Musk having, 14 years of my conversations with journalists and activists and everything else. I was like, how creepy is that? Right? So similar thing here. Look, I don't think we can trust the guy. I think for the United States government to be relying on Elon Musk as their Starship guy for Mars, for going back to the moon, for bringing payloads up to the space station. I guess we've been using the Russians. Thank you, B. Smith, for that. I don't know if you had a question. If you did, feel free to throw it in, B. Smith, if you left it out. Otherwise, thank you. I think he's a security risk at the very least because somebody tweeted last week, and I thought it was the funniest thing. I mean, funny, haha, in all of this discussion. But with all of this craziness about Elon shutting off the internet for the Ukrainians, they said, could you imagine relying on Elon Musk for your oxygen supply on Mars? And the point is, the guy's flaky. He changes his mind left and right. He seems to be not quite there. Again, all of this could be intentional. So I don't know what's going on in his head, but clearly I would say his word means nothing. Maybe once upon a time it did. Right now, Elon's word means absolutely nothing. He lies a lot. I'm talking, the thing is, and I don't like making this comparison because I don't want to make this political, but there is a lot of similarity to Elon Musk's personality and Donald Trump's personality. And again, I'm not saying this in trying to be like a Trump bashing way or anything else. There is literally the I'm pissing off the Russians again. Look out. The Russians are getting angry. Don't attack Saint Elon. Don't attack my Elon Musk, Elon Moscow. The insecurities, the self-aggrandizement, the mixture of I'm better than all of you and I'm terrified none of you will love me. The making a decision and then switching the decision and not knowing where cult of personality, I see somebody saying on TikTok, but also that cult of personality changing the opinion left and right? He makes a decision. He changes it again. Starlink, yes. Starlink, no. Ukraine, good. Ukraine, bad. I'm going to pay. I'm not going to pay. I'm going to pay again. Now I'm not paying. It's just, you get whiplash from the lack of constancy. I don't think that Biden doesn't though. Biden, I mean, you're saying that I know to be mean to Biden or whatever. Biden's problem is Biden does it in a small way. Biden does do it in a small way. Okay. And I've said this before, I criticized Biden. Biden would criticize somebody and then get embarrassed and apologize. Like he'd snap at a journalist and then 2 days later would apologize. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Or who else? Oh, Mitch McConnell. He was pissed at the Republicans for doing something bad and then apologized 2 days later and went to Mitch McConnell's office and then McConnell wouldn't see him, which was very funny. Biden does that. Biden has this I want to be your friend side to him that I think he's got to be careful with. Totally different than the Musk thing is literally woo, 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 woo. Anyway, all right, enough of Elon. Okay, so B. Smith did have a super chat question. Thank you, Roshan. I thought you did. If Russia won the war today, would it still be a huge embarrassment for Russia? Well, I mean, here's the thing. If Russia won the war today, okay, they would have occupied and won 18% of Ukraine. So, right, Russia on the border, this is all Russia. And Russia's huge. I always say it's like 11 time zones or something. So Russia's ginormous country, okay? Frankly, too big of a country. Russia, if the war ended today, Russia would basically own all of this and make it all part of Russia. Now, they claim to have made it part of Russia already, but it's not. But they would make all of this part of Russia. That's a hell of a victory for them if somehow, they did that today. Clearly, Russia has gotten its butt kicked. Russia is much weaker than it was a year ago. And I've described this in length before, but to put the really quick thing is, Russia not only has lost, I think the latest estimate was half of their main tanks. Half of their tanks have been destroyed. They've lost a lot of men. They've lost a lot of weapons that are going to take a long time to get back. They also, we thought they were this high. They were really this high. We thought Russia was 6'3". They're really 5'6". I mean, to put it in centimeters, I'm not sure, but we thought Russia was a really tall guy and they're kind of a small boy in terms of their military. I mean, they've got nukes, but other than their nukes, they're not very good at this, right? Their economy isn't very good. Certainly the war has been a big embarrassment for them, but lopping off almost 20% of Ukraine is a big deal. Adding all that part of Eastern Ukraine and Southern Ukraine to Russia is a big deal. So, from Putin's perspective, he'd say it was worth it. And I mean, he expanded the empire. And if you're a Russian, even though a lot of people died and a lot of things screwed up, that's a tangible thing he could point to. I mean, literally, he expanded the empire by making all of this part of Russia. I mean, that's something you could point to. Now, what happens next is we then provide the Ukrainians with lots of weapons for a guerrilla terrorist campaign, basically against the Russians for the next 30 years. So, Anyway, all right. Let me see here. So I'm going to skip. I was saying this. I think this is an important story, though. Russia is Moldova, possibly planning a coup in Moldova. Moldova, and I always mean to look at my map to get this exactly right. More or less, Moldova's over here. I mean, Transnistria. Let's not recognize Transnistria. Moldova's more or less over here. Moldova, part of the former Soviet Union, very strong ties to Romania, maybe even part of Romania, depending who you talk to. And possibly wants to join Romania and become, reunifying with Romania and become part of NATO, become part of the European Union. Moldova over here. The Ukrainians let be known last week that they'd received intelligence that the Russians were planning basically a coup. A coup d'etat means, a military not even a military, but a takeover of the Moldovan government. Okay. Let me see here. The Moldovan president Maya Sandu came out today and said Russia is planning a coup d'etat in Moldova involving attacks on government buildings and hostage taking through violent actions disguised as protests by the so-called opposition. The change in power in Chisinau, I learned today how to pronounce the capital of Moldova, Chisinau, would be forced. So basically do what they did in Ukraine, or tried to do in Ukraine and other countries, popular uprising to put a pro-Russian puppet in charge. She went out publicly warning about it. So just throwing that out there. The US today warned all of its citizens to leave Russia, like all of them. There's a new poll from the 2023 Munich Security Index showing that 89% of Ukrainians are prepared to continue fighting against Russia, even in the event of Russia using a tactical nuclear weapon against them. That's interesting to me. Now, mind you, a poll is a lot different, a hypothetical poll, than literally Russia nukes you and then you have to decide, do you keep fighting? But I've been saying all along that, and a lot of the defense experts have been saying this, that it doesn't really make sense for Russia to use a nuclear weapon in Ukraine. Why would they do it? The military folks say, these are Western military experts will tell you, Russia doesn't really get any great advantage out of using a nuclear weapon militarily. It's not like, they drop a few key weapons and then, the war is over. That's not the case. I've been saying that the Ukrainians seem a rather, pissed off bunch of folks, that if you invaded them, they didn't roll over. They got really pissed off and creative and screwed Russia back. If the Russians use nuclear weapons in Ukraine, God help the Russians in terms of what the Ukrainians would do back to them, and that's always been my take on this. Is I just don't think it'll crush the Ukrainian spirit. I think it'll make the Ukrainians even angrier. The poll is interesting with the caveat that it's different to poll people and say, what would you do in a nuclear attack, than to have a nuclear attack happen and say, now what are you going to do? Nonetheless, 89% of Ukrainians saying, we'd keep, fighting them. That's interesting to me. Iran has been smuggling long-range combat drones to Russia, and Austria. Last two things. Austria is refusing to train Ukrainian soldiers on the Leopard 2 tanks. Austria totally co-opted by the Russians. Russian spy networks. I was reading about this the other day, that the Western countries are even uncomfortable sharing intelligence with Austria because there are so many Russian spies that have infiltrated the Austrian government. Really, what a screwed up country. So Austria is refusing to even train Ukrainian soldiers on how to use the new German tanks. And finally, some Wagner recruits, the Wagner mercenary group, did a interview with CNN. And one of the ex-fighters from the group said they saw 2/3 of their group die during one assault. These are the former prisoners, the Russian prisoners who got recruited to join the mercenary army, right? Listen to this. 2/3 of their group were killed. So 2/3 of the group you got enlisted with died during one assault. One assault. Okay. With any injured, with those who were injured and survived, left to administer their own first aid. There was no one there to even help the injured soldiers. It was like, sayonara. Recruits who did not comply with orders were killed. If one group was unsuccessful, another was sent right away. If the second was unsuccessful, meaning killed, they sent another group. Both were recruited from prison, like many Wagner mercenaries, with the promise of being pardoned. All right. let's go to the questions and answers. Please do keep the gifts coming. As I said, I do this for free. I'm doing it full time, and no one's paying me to do it. You guys literally are paying me to do it. So please do keep the gifts coming. Gifts on TikTok, super chat questions there. And I do have a store set up too, store.aravosis.com. Lots of Ukrainian style stuff we're selling. Half of the proceeds from that too. Thank you, Marcy. Half the proceeds from that as well, I'm channeling into Ukrainian relief and support for the military, both. Support for the military, both. All right, let me look for the questions. So for questions, thank you, Big Gator Girl. For questions, feel free to submit your questions on TikTok via the Q&A link in my profile, or comments too, like your thoughts of what's going on with the war. And sorry, I've been drinking tea, Bash Brannigan, and I shouldn't have had, I needed the tea to wake me up from a nap, and now the tea has me flying. So sorry about that, guys. Let me pull up TikTok, and I will try to slow down my Q&A. The Russian public must be up in arms over all the deaths. Is there any public pushback being seen regarding the war? Not very much. You've got to remember, at the beginning there were protests. Then, a lot of Russians left. I mean, they cracked down on the independent media, on the opposition media. So all of those guys left, right? The peace activists. Remember, even the chief rabbi of Moscow had to flee the country because he was getting so many threats and was afraid the government was going to, come after him, fled the country with his family. He's the rabbi. He's the chief rabbi of Moscow. I mean, give me a break, right? They so threatened him, he had to leave. You don't have a lot of people who are left to organize fighting back. Navalny, he's in jail. It's no. As for the people pushing back, Russians don't tend to do that. Sometimes they do. Afghanistan at the end of the war, after 10 years, they did, but they don't have a real, the Russians have a history of once every 100 years, having a little bit of a revolution. And the last one, 1991, like petered away, right? They threw over communism, and then thank you, Addie, for the gift there. Let me pull up a couple questions here. Elise, regarding Hungary, do you think they would behave better if the European Union really helped them reduce their energy dependence on Russia? Or do you think Orban is just a big Putin fan? I think he's a Putin fan. I mean, the problem is, energy dependence and all of that matters for all of these countries. Not even energy dependence. Your neighbors this is the European problem, right? Your neighbors with Russia, you've got to have good relations with them, and that concern. Or they could come after us, whether it's energy, whether it's just rolling across the border, right? So I appreciate that concern. Orban is a wannabe dictator. I was going to say like Erdogan in Turkey. I mean, I don't know that they're alike in terms of mentality, though. Orban, clearly kind of a right-wing dictator type. He doesn't I think he has an affinity for Putin. Probably corrupt and everything else. Doesn't like Ukraine, doesn't like Ukrainians, probably just doesn't like Ukrainians, period. He's, which is really sick for somebody from Hungary. It's sort of like somebody from Czechoslovakia, or Czech or Slovak being like pro-Putin and pro-Russia after what those countries did after what the Soviet Union did to the Czechs, to Czechoslovakia and to Hungary, let alone the rest of Eastern Europe, but really did to those two countries. It's sick that Orban is this, this pro-Putin, but he is. So I think the concern is that, sure, even if we help them become more independent of Putin, would Orban just take it and go, thanks, now I'm going to go out with my friend Vlad? Probably. That'd be my fear. Ben, thank you. I saw on Discord today, yep, we have our Discord, discord.aravosis.com. I know, I saw you were getting into quite a long discussion today. I saw on Discord today that the Hungarian foreign minister was visiting Belarus. I did see that. Any news on that? No. The Hungarian foreign minister was visiting Belarus today to talk peace, to discuss peace. Belarus is the dictatorship, the pro-Putin dictatorship just northwest of Ukraine, bordering Russia, bordering Poland. So here's Ukraine. Belarus is up here. Okay, Russia over here. Belarus over here, Poland over here. So what the Russians did when they first invaded, that first invasion where they came down and then the Ukrainians kicked them back, part of the invasion came through Belarus itself. Now, the Belarusians gave them permission and all of that. It wasn't like the Russians, came through. Lukashenko, who's the dictator, nasty dictator, owes his job to Putin. Putin came in and helped him a few years back when there was an uprising against him. He's a nasty, nasty dictator. So the fact that Orban's foreign minister from Hungary would go to Belarus, of all people, to talk peace is just bizarre. I just don't even understand what, I don't know. I have no idea what possible benefit, not to mention, like Orban is some, even though Hungary is a member of NATO, I wouldn't even consider Orban to be in the middle. I consider Orban to be pro-Putin. You know what I mean? I would never trust the Hungarian government to be like an objective in the middle party. And the irony is they're NATO, right? I still wouldn't trust them. But going to Lukashenko, the dictator, today, let's talk peace. Belarus, country that is so far up Putin's butt that Lukashenko couldn't do anything anyway, even if he wanted to, because Putin would have him killed. Except Lukashenko wouldn't want to do anything to help, no matter what. The whole thing's weird. No, it's very weird. So, all right. Sorry, scrolling down. I don't think they're being blackmailed. Thank you, Harold, for the hat. Kay is asking, do you think Iran is being blackmailed by Russian, who has their nuke secrets from the former guy? Maybe North Korea also. Don't know anything about that. I mean, Iran is pretty happy right now with Russia. They're getting along quite well. They're selling a lot of weapons back and forth. What the Russians are giving the Iranians in exchange is a little scary. We don't know, but no, I think they're getting along really well. I don't think they're being blackmailed at all as far as this goes. TikTok. Well, this is the problem. John S. is asking, if Elon Musk is supporting Putin, why doesn't the American government turn his Starlink off? Thus the problem with what's the word I'm looking for? Say oligarchically, with monopolies. This is the problem with monopolies, right? A monopoly is when your business controls so much of the market that basically you're in control of everything. Okay. Thank you, Star. It doesn't have to be 100%, but Google in essence, I think it's true. I love Google, but Google has a monopoly on search engines, right? There is no other search engine. Now, maybe ChatGPT is going to change something. Who knows? But right now, it's Google, and Google has the problem, economics thinks, with monopolies is they skew the market, that nobody can even enter the market because Google has such a market share. That's the first problem. The second, now mind you, I haven't studied economics in a long time, so I may forget to mention some of the points. The other problem is, so A, it's very hard to enter the market because Google controls so much. B, Google, they're not charging you and me, but when somebody has a monopoly, they can charge whatever they want, right? Because nobody else can, you have no one else to go to. So with something like Starlink, it is, I think right now, the government would love to go to somebody else other than Elon Musk because they don't trust him. The problem is he has a monopoly. There is nobody else. There was a company that, was it Business Insider or no, Bloomberg Business or something reported on the other day about some competitor of Elon Musk's. But I don't think there's any country. Well, there's two things. One is SpaceX overall, which is the rockets going up. I don't think there is anybody that's private that does as good a job as Musk is doing right now. And then you'd have to say, is there any kind of SpaceX competitor that's good enough? I don't know, but that's why, and thus why monopolies are a problem, because monopolies have you by the, it's like having a monopoly on food or water. You keep buying the food and the water from the guy you don't like because he's the only guy you can get food and water from. What do you do? So yeah, that's why we're doing it. Ocean Favor is asking, why wasn't Ukraine added to NATO long ago? Well, I mean, a lot of reasons. France and Germany stopped it, but I'm not convinced anybody else would let them in anyway. Ukraine wanted to join at least as far back as 2008, whatever. Back then, you probably had some issue. I know there were issues. What I mean is some of the concern would have been back then that Ukraine wasn't enough of a democracy, too much corruption, this kind of stuff, right? Now, there are clearly other members of NATO. I mean, look at Hungary, look at Turkey as far as democracy goes, right? you know, right? So there's that. But now the problem becomes that, and I think other NATO members probably looked at it and went, they, for whatever reason, well, I don't know though. I was going to say they might have been afraid that it would get us into a war with Russia, but having said that, they did it. We did it with Poland, with the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, right? We did it with former Soviet states like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and we did it with former Soviet satellites like Poland, Romania, Hungary, Czech, Slovakia, all of them, right? So it's not like Ukraine was any different than the other guys, right? The problem now is, ever since 2014, when Putin invaded and took Crimea, Crimea is, right, the territory in southern Ukraine, this guy that Putin invaded and took in 2014 and annexed, basically claimed it as part of Russia. Now you've got an ongoing territorial dispute. So if Ukraine becomes part of NATO, does that mean any future battle over Crimea, NATO becomes a NATO war? Probably, right? So now that would be the concern there. Basically, I would argue, if you came up with some peace treaty, and I don't know what it would be, some peace treaty that truly, that Ukraine and Russia were both willing to sign, whatever it was, the day after that peace treaty is signed, NATO, Ukraine should become a member of NATO. Because once Ukraine's a member of NATO, Russia's not attacking them. That's it. Because Russia attacks, NATO, and Russia dies. But what would be the peace treaty? Because you don't want to have these ongoing land disputes that might drag NATO itself into a war with Russia. So I can appreciate that. Annex, well, the reason I keep explaining, it's a good question. Rexpo is asking annex versus invade. When I say annex, I mean, okay, invade means I come in and I come in with my troops. Thank you for the slime. Who was that? Arifa, good to see you with the slime. Invade means come in with my troops. We invaded Iraq both times that we U.S. Went to war against Saddam Hussein, right? It doesn't really, the word invade doesn't go to a question of intent. Simply means you moved your military, you attacked the other country, you invaded, you attacked the other country and went inside, okay? Annexing is quite literally, after the Russians invaded, they said, we are going to now take that territory in southern Ukraine and we are declaring it part of Russia. They annex it. To annex it means to literally take it and attach it to what is yours. So an annex in a building, for example. Remember they say, oh, it's over in the annex. The annex is often a new wing that was added on to the building. So it's extra and was added on is the annex. So you'll hear the word. Now you're going to hear the word, by the way, since I've explained to you, annex, you're going to go, oh yeah, same thing. They annexed it. They said, oh, we're adding this on to Russia. Last September, Russia also annexed these 4 provinces of Ukraine and said, these 4 are now part of Russia as well. That's the difference. Invade means simply you go in with your troops. Annex means quite literally you say, and now by the force of God, whatever, these territories are now part of my country. Okay. I'll go another couple minutes because I went long on the news, and then we'll do a wrap up here. Hang on, guys. Let me see. Oh, thank you, Annie, for the hat there. I don't know. Do you think China is taking advantage of the war as everybody's eyes are on the war? I don't know. I mean, I think to some degree it would be smart of China to try to take advantage of the war to some degree, right? I mean, obviously, I think they're going to do what they can. Lost connection. I'm watching TikTok. Hope you're still there, TikTok. As soon as I get asked that question, I see my TikTok tell me lost connection. Oh God. TikTokers, are you there or not? Give me some comments. You there? Okay. It's saying lost connection on TikTok. Uh-oh. I know Elon Musk cut off my Starlink, I think, on TikTok. But are you guys hearing me or not on TikTok? Sorry, guys, on YouTube, but I'm getting a weird lost connection error on TikTok. I'm tempted to turn it off and come back on. I think the TikTok screwed up. All right, give me 1 second, guys, because I wasn't ready to turn this off entirely. Let me turn it off and on again. Oh, it's buffering. There we are. Oh, wait, you're back. No, it's stalled. Okay, it did stall. All right, let me turn it off and on again. That was weird. Oops. All right, I'm ending. It's back. Well, I just turned it off. Or no. Let me come back. Oops. Hang on, guys. Live. Oops, no title. That's not good. Oh, well. Oh, well. All right, hold on, guys. Sorry. Ooh, this is really glitching badly. Oops, hang on. Hang on. Sorry, you all. 1 quick second. Usually we don't. I mean, TikTok isn't the one to usually fits. Boy, right when I got asked the Russia question, right, is when TikTok glitched on me. All right, Ukraine war update. Let's write that in actually English this time. Ukraine war. I'm laughing as I'm someday off to tell you my dirty story about when I was in the Soviet Union. I'm laughing. Ukraine war update sounds exactly like this very, very funny R-rated story. Well, like I said, when I was in Moscow back in 1984. That may have to wait for a weekend at some point. We'll see. I don't know. For one of my weekend chats. Lost connection? Unstable connection. What the hell's going on? But you guys are still stable over on YouTube, right? I assume someday. Okay. TikTok is now trying to come back. Let's give it a set. Lost connection. Son of a bitch. No, TikTok is just having some weird. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Last little thing on TikTok. I am going to end it. I'm going to close TikTok and reopen it. I just hate ending it sort of abrupt like that. Hang on real quick. We'll do one more TikTok. Ukraine war update. Go live. All right, we're trying one more time on TikTok and then we'll give up. It is funny though. Literally, I got asked about China and TikTok crashes. Oops. All right, let's see. La, 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 la. Lost connection. Wow. Okay, now it's saying the connection's back again. It keeps saying lost connection, though. Something weird's going on with TikTok, and I don't know what. Something weird's going on. It's coming. It's glitching, though. It's coming and going. Yeah, it is coming and going. Hello. Welcome, TikTokers, back. That was weird. I think it was, I don't know. All I know is I got asked about China, and my internet connection, my TikTok connection dropped. Wait, 1,000 people. Come back, 1,000 TikTokers. Come back. We're talking about Ukraine. I pissed somebody off. Привіт. We've got a Ukrainian here, DLB in Ukraine. Welcome. We haven't done our sunflowers in a while, guys. Give our sunflowers for, I know TikTok is being glitchy. Something's going on with this lost connection thing. I'm going to need to send this to the powers that be who I know at TikTok. There is something glitchy. I know Elon, I'm telling you, Elon's shutting off my, lost connection. What? And good connection. Very weird. All right. You know what? Let me, because it's getting so messed up on TikTok right now, let me do the quick recap of the news. And hey, DLB, do the quick recap of the news. I know, because the connection is being just horrible. And then I'm going to sign off, guys. You know what I'm going to do actually really quick? Let me do a quick comment to the TikTokers in writing so they know what I'm doing. Let me see. How do I do this? Comment. My connection is having issues. I'm just going to tell them I'm going to sign off for the evening because I'll finish with you guys on YouTube in a second. Mods, please repeat this. Now, of course, that I do this, it'll probably work fine. Oh, wait, now is it finally? This is hilarious. Now that I say, all right, let's see. Now that I say I'm signing on, no, unstable connection. Yeah, the connection's still glitchy. Yeah, I'm going to turn off TikTok. I'm going to try. I did hear a gift noise, but I'm turning off TikTok because I've got a lost connection again. Yeah. All right. All right. Sorry, I'm turning off the TikTok. I will submit a little help report to the TikTok powers that be. And then, all right, guys. Well, for the rest of you, why don't I do a quick news summary of what we talked about today? And then we can, God, I thought maybe TikTok banned me or something. And then we can go from there. All right. Nope, I'm not seeing any ban messages. Okay, I thought maybe TikTok got evil with me or something. All right, let me do a quick review of what we talked about today, and then we'll go to Discord. We can hang out for a little bit. I started talking about all the UFOs that the U.S. has shot down. They did have a press conference today. The U.S. government did say in the press conference today from the White House and the Pentagon, actually from the White House, that there is no evidence that these are aliens, so that's good to know. I don't think it got banned. It's claiming my internet connection's bad, but I don't know why on TikTok. I don't know what's going on with that. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says Russia has already started its new offensive in eastern Ukraine. In a Le Figaro interview, Polish President Duda says that Ukraine needs to be helped in the coming weeks or Putin may win. In Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine, there are signs that Ukraine might be preparing for a withdrawal. Russia may have lost an entire brigade of 5,000 soldiers in the eastern Ukrainian town of Vuhledar in a battle last week that went really bad for the Russians. Elon Musk is playing even more games with Starlink. In addition to shutting off Starlink for Ukraine's drone program, just as the Russians are preparing to attack, it looks like Musk has also shut down Starlink for military communications, which is something he claimed he wasn't going to do, and he lied. Really like to know why this man is so pro-Putin. Russia is planning a coup d'etat in Moldova, according to the president of Moldova. The U.S. has warned all citizens to leave Russia. Ukrainians, 89% of Ukrainians say that they are prepared to continue fighting even against Russia, even if Russia uses a nuclear weapon against them. The Guardian reports that Iran is smuggling long-range combat drones to Russia for its war against Ukraine. Austria is refusing to train Ukrainian soldiers on the German Leopard 2 tanks. And two Wagner mercenary group soldiers, recruits from prison, that were recruited from prison by the Russians, talked to CNN about just how bad things were, how 2/3 of their group were killed in one battle alone, and how they're not very happy about it. All right, guys. Let's go to the Discord. We can go hang a little bit. It's Monday. Why not? It's discord.aravosis.com. You can also find it just by going to aravosis.com itself. The trick for it, as you guys know, anybody who's new there, is you've got to go to the read. Once you go through, click the read me on the left. On the left, it'll bring up a message from me. You've got to read the message, click the box at the bottom that says I agree to the terms. And then when you do that, it should magically open up the rest of the Discord. And on the left bottom, you'll see voice channels and you'll see John's after party. We hang out in the after party section. Thank you, Jangle. All right, guys, let's go over there. And thank you for another day. I didn't get to thank the TikTok mods. I'll thank the YouTube mods, even though your day is much easier. We did have one troll on Facebook today. You lie. I tell you, you lie. But what do you do? All right, guys. See you all on Discord. Otherwise, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, I'll be back here. All right. So thank you all. Appreciate you guys coming and all the support as always. All right. Night. And I guess anybody who wants to keep chatting, I'm pretty sure you can keep chatting here anyway, even though I go. I hope the younger Russians understand. I'm just afraid that Russia's a place that doesn't really, people just don't. People are used to their government not working for them, so they're never going to really stand up to it. But anyway, that's my thought. All right. Bye, guys.